Well, it's time for the paper review. First look at the front pages and analysis of the big stories. Let's begin with this day this morning. Presidency, VIPs now to pay at airport toll gates after 10 billion naira loss. Right as to that story, aviation sector gets approval to procure 4.2 billion naira aircraft recovery equipment. Says cyber security levy suspended for review. Federal government to transform infrastructure, housing sectors, targets 20 trillion naira pension fund for development, to provide 48-hour visa service for investors, urge Labour not to derail power sector transformation plan, to look into electricity tariffs. So these and many more were conclusions at the Federal Executive Council meeting yesterday. Above the masthead, naira continues to weaken against dollar. Official window 1,520.40 to the dollar. At the parallel market, it is 1,535 to the dollar. Nasima decries depreciation, expresses concern over impact on imports. There's a story there from the CBN. CBN appoints 9 pre-shipment inspection agents, 2 evaluation teams for oil, gas exports. And the UN grants Nigeria additional maritime territory. That's the front page of this day.
Let's look at the Punch newspaper. Excuse me. EFCC rates speculators as naira drops to 1,540 to the dollar. Illegal BDC operators, speculators raided in Lagos, Abuja, Port Harcourt and Kano. Minimum wage, Labour insists on May 31 deadline. JAM releases more UTME results. Marketers ordered to open pumps for CNG vehicles. Police say bankers stole customers 650 million naira. Fubara tackles Wike over Rivers' heavy debt. On the top mass, policy blaze. Tinubu unveils 21 major initiatives after marathon FEC meeting. The meeting lasted 2 days.
The Vanguard this morning, minimum wage, federal government calls committee meeting. Labour insists on May 31 deadline.
The Punch Sports Extra, like Eagles, like Bafana, Chukwueze tops Eagles injury list ahead South Africa clash. Bafana battle fitness concerns. Finidi takes charge for that match. Newcastle not selling £100 million Gordon. Chukwueze Chilwell. Chukwueze return. United eye trial to replace Varane. And Safest Hands Nadozie dedicates Keepers Award to club. She did that in Paris. Arsenal's agony. Tottenham 0, Man City 2. Citizens beat Spurs to boost title defense.
Daily Trust, terrorists abduct over 80 in Katsina. Women among victims, military confirms Sunday's soldiers killing in same area.
All right, the Vanguard minimum wage, FG Courts committee meeting. Labour insists on May 31 deadline vow to down tools. All right, it says no Vanguard. Let's look at some other paper. Just the Daily Trust this day.
The leadership is there.
Yeah, leadership. I have to get to leadership. All right, leadership. 80 residents missing after bandits attack Katsina community. Airport access fees. No more VIPs. Everybody must pay. FG declares. That sounds quite interesting. Despite PIA, petrol import monopoly persists. That's for the FCTA to demolish another 500 illegal structures here in Abuja.
The Business Day South Africa, Anglo strategy to fend off BHP. There's also a story on unemployment rate rising in South Africa.
And the citizens in South Africa feeling the love. You see the children there smiling. NHI, there's just no money. This is a story about President Cyril Ramaphosa's cynical and destructive intention to sign the National Health Insurance Bill into law today, 2 weeks before a watershed election has been met by an outcry over funds that's just not there.
The Times leads on proposed changes to sex education and says schools will be told to avoid teaching children about gender identity.
The I newspaper, new weight loss jab gold rush offers obesity hope to millions. 322 anti-obesity drugs in development worldwide. Islands.
The Daily Express. A government advisor has said Rishi Sunak could hit the Conservative net migration target by the general election, according to the paper.
Let's look at The Guardian. International. US wants Georgia not to side with Russia against the West.
Well, let's bring in Dr. Constance Ikoko, who is a journalist, a social commentator, and a Rise News analyst. Great to see you this morning.
Great to see you, Adesua. Good morning.
Morning.
And good morning indeed.
Good morning to you.
So good news, but explain the importance of this to us. It's the story on the front page of this day, I believe. The United Nations has granted Nigeria more maritime territory, I believe. What is this about?
So what we understand is that Nigeria has been working on this. There was a presidential committee mandated to make a submission to the United Nations to extend our maritime borders. And so this has been granted. And what it means is that we will have additional square miles of a size 5 times the size of Lagos State. The good thing they say is that there will be a lot of species in this area. There will be solid minerals, gas, and a host of other things. So it's an important story. It's a good story. At the same time, you have to ask, what have we done with the territory and the borders that we have already in Nigeria? Have we been able to police our borders, land and sea in the past? We can't even manage or stop oil theft in the Niger Delta, and then we have additional territory. So the most important thing I would think from a lot of Nigerians is to make sure that we have a government that is doing much with what we have already, you know, in addition to this new addition to the country.
Quite some interesting stories on the front page of The Guardian. You know, you have Fubara hits harder, says Rivers battling huge debts left behind by the minister, Wike, former governor there. Then Tinubu, no, not that. Tinubu suspends implementation of cybersecurity levy. And then there's this story, illegal mining. Nigeria's $1.8 billion gold reserves mined into private pockets at a time that government is saying VIP or no VIP, you have to pay the fees, toll at Tollgates.
To the mining story, indeed, is such a scandalous article. We have known about illegal mining in Nigeria for quite a while. It's going on in states like Borno, Zamfara, Osun, and other states. And it gives the impression that the oil of the Niger Delta is for all Nigerians, but the ones from other states is for private individuals. And so we understand from the story that there are people, private individuals, and foreign entities that are excavating minerals in these states with bulldozers in broad daylight, not under the cover of dark, and they are carting them away in private jets. The government is aware of what is happening, of these illegal activities, but it hasn't done much. We also understand that we do have laws, good mining laws. The problem is enforcement. And at a time when the government is crying about lack of foreign exchange, you know, lack of enough dollars to run the economy, I mean, this is a loss of huge revenue to the federal government. So I think that most people expect that something is done about this. The administration of President Bola Tinubu is able, you know, to rein in the criminals that are, you know, organizing. Is a highly organized theft that is going on at high scale. We are hoping that they're able to stop this kind of criminal activity.
Perhaps if we have more punitive measures in place, that may tackle that. But you talked about loss of revenue, and that is one story that is making it on most of the front pages this morning. You see it on the front page of this day. It's also there in the leadership. VIPs, top government officials, including President Bola Tinubu and Vice President Kashim Shettima, will now have to pay their access fees at all federal airport tolls. Dr.
Yes,
Okoko.
yes, Adesua. The Minister of Aviation, Mr. Festus Keyamo, is saying no more free lunch for VIPs and wealthy Nigerians. His argument is that if ordinary Nigerians can pay for essential services at the airports, wealthy Nigerians should be able to afford it as well and should pay their fair share. And so he also made us know that 82% is being lost. 82% of revenue is being lost because of these waivers that are given to VIPs. And he says that in an instant at an airport gate where you should be making like 200 or more than 200 million naira, you make less than 100 because the VIPs are asking for e-tags or waivers for all sorts of things, and it cannot continue. So he says that now everybody needs to pay, including the president and the vice president. It might seem infinitesimal, but it is something. At the end of the day, I think there will be a push to also extend this to other bigger tickets, areas in government life where, these people are not living in reality. If poor people are paying, they definitely should be paying.
It shouldn't even happen. He was really not finding it funny. If there's anyone that should pay, it should be those who have the wherewithal, like you have it, the band A, band B, band C thing, which even people are saying is discrimination anyway. All right, let's look at the New Telegraph. You have a story on the front page there. Another academic disruption looms. ASA gives every 2 weeks to reconstitute, cancels, and meet all their demands. And there's a story there too that Ababu is seeking collaboration of UK in deepening Nigeria's democracy. What's that all about?
Well, to ASU, I mean, it goes on and on again. It's the same cycle of, threats to federal government refuses to honor agreements, and then, the schools go on strike, so it's a usual story. To the Akpabio one, the High Commissioner of the British Embassy was visiting the Senate leadership, and he was talking about collaboration and partnership with the National Assembly. And so there was a statement issued by the media aide of Akpabio, and in that statement he was saying that Nigeria has a lot to learn from the UK. It's a giant in democracy. They should help Nigeria to deepen democracy, and all of those usual talk, that politicians make. But the point here is that nobody's going to help you to deepen your democracy. You just need to do the right things. When politicians engage in brigandage, in inefficiency, in corruption, it's just stealing public funds and behaving in a way that does not speak well. We want a country where there is, public interest or public good overrides the personal interest. That's the kind of country we want to see. You do not need, the UK or the US to tell you about that or to help you to deepen that. There are fundamental things that you need to do as a country, and then you deepen your own democracy by yourself.
Well said. Well, if you look at the Financial Times, you see one president who understands this all too well, with an election coming up in November, talking about President Joe Biden. And China seems to be doing the most with the world economy, talking about those electric vehicles, talking about the chips. Well, President Biden has now moved to secure more jobs. Well, in an attempt to secure more jobs, we do know what China is doing, making those vehicles cheaper than you get them manufactured anywhere else in the world. Dr. Koko, what do you make of this tariff that Biden has hit China goods with?
What we have here is the two biggest economies in the world fighting over tough, the US and China. And so what Biden is arguing is that China is pouring money, government money, into private businesses, and that is giving them undue advantage in global trade. He says that is not fair competition. He also says that the US workers can outcompete anybody in a fair marketplace. And so if China is subsidizing their companies, then the US has to do something. So he has raised this tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, on solar cells, advanced batteries, aluminium, steel, and a host of other products in order to protect the US. And when you also read the story, you can see that in an election year, both Biden and former President Trump, they're fighting to see who speaks tougher on China, because that's an election issue for Americans. I think there's also an avenue for Nigerians or African countries to learn. Most of these countries subsidize their businesses, their companies, and provide all sorts of incentives to grow the economies. Because if you have a productive economy, then you can wipe out poverty, and you have a citizen that is happy and is able to live well.
Employed.
And so when we talk about subsidy, they tell African countries, remove all your subsidies from everything. No, all these countries, take the steps and policies that are necessary to float their economic and make them sustainable. Then we African countries, we should be doing similar things in a way that is able to support us.
That's why I said that when the UK Commissioner was talking about we're watching the question of state police, I said, I think you should be minding your business in the UK and letting Nigeria alone. That doesn't really concern you.
That's right.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Constance.
You're welcome.
That's the press preview. Follow us on X at Arise.